Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Many Canadian premiers arrive in Washington for an anti-tariff lobbying campaign. Political columnist Brian Lilley joins us from the U.S. Capitol to discuss Premier Smith's and Ford's tactical approach while in D.C. And U.S. President Donald Trump warns Hamas if all remaining hostages aren't released by Saturday, Israel should, quote, let hell break out. Thanks so much for joining us. The Liberal government has named a former senior Mountie to be the federal point person on fighting the spread of deadly fentanyl. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Kevin Brozo's role as fentanyl czar will involve working closely with U.S. counterparts to accelerate Canada's efforts to detect, disrupt, and dismantle the illicit trade of the drug. U.S. President Donald Trump recently threatened to impose steep tariffs on all goods from Canada, citing the southbound flow of migrants and drugs, including fentanyl. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is promising a firm and clear response to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. Trudeau says Trump's executive order to implement 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports into the U.S. starting next month is unacceptable. The Prime Minister says this will hurt both countries, and he has spoken with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance about the impact steel tariffs would have.
Tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum would be entirely unjustified. We are the U.S.'s closest ally. Our economies are integrated. Canadian steel and aluminum is used in a number of key American industries, whether it's defense, shipbuilding, manufacturing, energy, automotive. Together we make North America more competitive. We will be working with the American administration over the coming weeks to highlight the negative impacts on Americans and Canadians of these unacceptable tariffs. But we'll also be working with our international partners and friends. And if it comes to that, our response, of course, will be firm and clear.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith will be embracing a Team Canada approach to convince Americans Donald Trump's threatened tariffs will harm workers and businesses on both sides of the border. She is among Canada's provincial and territorial leaders traveling back to Washington, D.C. today to lobby U.S. lawmakers and industry over the threats by Trump. And Toronto Sun columnist and BCN contributor Brian Lilley is also in Washington, D.C. today, reporting on the Premier's anti-tariff campaign, which is planned to fully kick into action on Wednesday.
We do know that they're going to be meeting with some senators, some congresspeople. Premier Ford's office has put out a list of who he's meeting. Eby couldn't say. Premier Smith's office did not put out a full list. So I think some of it's fluid. And I also think that they don't want to say who they're going to meet with until they've met with them because, Canada doesn't factor in an awful lot in Washington. It's hard to get meetings, and it's easy to get them canceled.
Brian also shares more about Prime Minister Trudeau's audio leak and if Trump really wants to make Canada the 51st state. That is all coming up later on in the program. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says the world is watching the trade dispute between Canada and the United States and that China is sitting back and laughing. He told U.S. Chamber of Commerce today that he's heard serious concerns from U.S. lawmakers about how China is hijacking global supply chains. Ford says decoupling the U.S. economy from China will not be an easy task, and it will require friends and allies like Canada and Ontario.
Working together, Canada and the U.S. can be the richest, most successful, safest, most secure two countries on the entire planet when we're working together. We can usher in a new American-Canadian century, what President Trump calls new golden age. We do so by building Fortress AMCAN. Fortress AMCAN is a renewed alliance between America and Canada that's a beacon of stability, security, and long-term economic growth on both sides of the border. First, Fortress AMCAN promotes free, fair, and balanced trade. Fair trade means fighting back against freeloaders that rip off workers by taking advantage of free trade agreements designed to protect jobs at home. I'm talking about China.
He's making his pitch for Canada and the U.S. to work together in an effort to convince President Donald Trump to drop his tariff threats. When we return, we'll have more of the top stories from the West with Forum Daily West. In other news, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered his army to beef up troops in and around the Gaza Strip. An Israeli officer says Netanyahu has also ordered authorities to prepare for every scenario if Hamas doesn't release hostages this Saturday as part of a ceasefire deal. Hamas has threatened to call off the scheduled hostage release after accusing Israel of violating their fragile deal. It says Israel has delayed allowing displaced Palestinians to return to northern Gaza, has targeted them with airstrikes, and failed to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid as agreed. President Trump, meantime, says if Hamas doesn't release all the remaining hostages on Saturday, then Israel should, quote, let hell break out.
I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
Today, President Trump is hosting Jordan's King Abdullah II at the White House as he escalates pressure on the Arab nation to take in refugees from Gaza, perhaps permanently, as part of his bold plan to remake the Middle East. Also in Washington, U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson said Tuesday he wholeheartedly agrees with Vice President J.D. Vance that courts should not try to control the president's power as Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, program slashes through the federal government.
What we're doing is good and right for the American people. What DOGE is doing is making sure that your taxpayer dollars, all of us, are spent in the way that they're intended to be spent, and that they're in America's interest, and they're financially responsible with the precious taxpayers' money. We have a $36 trillion federal debt, and we have got to get a hold of these things. When you're making big change, it ruffles some feathers. But this is positive change. It's good change for the country, and we're excited to be a part of it. So.
Here in the prairies, RCMP have released the names of 2 men and 2 women killed last week on a First Nation in southern Saskatchewan in order to help in their investigation. The dead include Tracy Hotomani, who was 34, and Terry Jack, who was 51, both of Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation. The others are 47-year-old Shauna Fay of Indian Head and 44-year-old Sheldon Cusans of Kagamai, Anishinaabeg. Police say the 4 were found with gunshot wounds in a home on Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation east of Regina. No arrests have yet been made in relation to the deaths of the 4 victims. A Winnipeg man is being charged after an attempted knife attack on a church pastor during an evening service. Police say officers responded to a report of a man disrupting a church service in the city's North End on Sunday and alleged the 50-year-old man charged towards a 38-year-old pastor at the altar with a knife. The pastor escaped without injuries, and the man was detained by an off-duty RCMP officer. Winnipeg police say the man is facing 3 charges, including assault with a weapon and possession of a weapon. One of the development companies for the proposed Lethbridge 2 and 3 solar facilities has said they are thrilled after the Alberta Utilities Commission approved the development of the combined solar field. The 2 project owners, New E Power, along with Low Carbon Canada Limited, plan to build the combined project in private land just southwest of the Lethbridge Airport. The project aims to develop 157 megawatts of electricity and offset over 138,000 100,000 tons of carbon. The news comes after the Lethbridge 1 solar project recently went into commercial production on the 31st of January, which holds a power capacity of 9 megawatts. A Juno Award-winning musician will be speaking at Lethbridge Polytechnic next month to host a fireside chat on artificial intelligence. David Usher, a member of the band Moist, founded Reimagine AI, which builds interactive AI-powered virtual beings for entertainment and healthcare purposes. He will headline the school's speaker series, which, thanks to a local donor, Bruce McKillop, has made its return since being shut down during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I'm excited about this because obviously he's going to bring all his musical background, first of all, and then he has a real passion himself for AI. I'm really hoping it's going to be well attended. I'm really excited that we're trying to revitalize the speaker series.
The speaker series is scheduled to take place on March 12th at 6 p.m. Tickets can be found on the Polytechnic's website. An American murderer wanted by authorities in the United States and Mexico had been living here in southern Alberta for nearly 50 years without being found by police. RBCN's Heidi Echeverria has this mysterious story.
Well, I just think everyone was totally surprised. Like, there was no indication whatsoever from, our interactions with who we knew as Deidre Glabus, actually, that she didn't have any criminal behavior here that we were aware of.
This was the shock reaction of those who knew Dee Glabus when they received the news that the kind and helpful woman was really Sharon Kinney, an American criminal and fugitive who killed 3 people in the United States and in Mexico between 1960 and 1964.
On September 18th, 1964, she shot and killed a man in a Mexico City hotel room and was arrested for the murder.
La Pistolera, which translates as the gunslinger, as she was known in Mexico for the 1964 murder of Francisco Ordóñez, had murdered her first husband, 25 years old James Kinney, in March 1960, and 2 months later, she also killed Patricia Jones, her lover's wife.
Thanks to a courageous tip from a concerned individual, Sharon Kinney had been living under an assumed name in Alberta, Canada.
April 18th of 2024, we were contacted to inquire about if we had any knowledge about an individual residing in our community who they believed was here under a false name. As a result, we started our investigation. We ended up touching base at the end of the day with our local funeral home, found out that actually this individual that we were looking for was deceased 2 years previously, but the funeral home had actually taken a fingerprint. I was able to request the print, but unfortunately, due to our privacy laws, I wasn't able to get a copy of the print. I went through a bunch of legal means and asked a bunch of prosecutors whether or not I was going to be able to do this legally in Canada, and the answer was no. I decided to have a look at the company that actually stores the fingerprints. And when I did that, I contacted the investigator. They got an administrative subpoena legally in the United States and obtained the fingerprint image. And the FBI confirmed very quickly that actually the person that we had living in our community was Sharon Kine.
May 31st, 2024, exactly to the day, 64 years after her initial arrest, we were able to confirm with the FBI that the fingerprints obtained throughout our investigation were compared to the initial arrest fingerprints made in 1960 and confirmed that Deidre Glabus was indeed Sharon Kinney and had been living in Alberta, Canada.
I knew her for many, many years. She worked as a night clerk at the Heritage Inn and had many interactions with her. All the documents that she would have had in Canada, including her driver's license, social insurance number, were valid.
Sharon was a woman that never faced the consequences of her actions, leaving them for her children to deal with. She caused great harm without thought or remorse.
It's just too bad that the information came out 2 years after she passed away. It would have been nice to hear it earlier so that there could have been justice for the victims as well as some closure for some families.
According to investigations, Kinney moved to Taber, Alberta in 1973, seeking a quiet life while on the run from authorities. She married several times, worked as a real estate agent, and volunteered at the food bank baking banana bread. According to acquaintances from Taber Senior Center, Kinney loved to play bridge, a card game, every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. With her death at the age of 81, a story that seemed straight out of a horror movie with a double life full of secrets has come to the end. For Bridge City News, I'm Heidi Echavarria.
Incredible. Thank you for that, Heidi. The Coaldale and District Soccer Association has provided the town's Shift Recreation Center with a $50,000 donation. The town says the donation, as part of the Coaldale Strong initiative, will help with more indoor programs and further cement more soccer opportunities in the region, as the Shift Center features a full-sized indoor soccer turf.
The association itself has been involved in working with the town for quite some time to provide soccer. Now with the new Shift Community Recreation Center being built and opened earlier this year in June, there's the opportunity to actually have an indoor program. And this group has taken that bull by the horn, so to speak, and has developed quite a substantial indoor program right here in Coaldale. Their donation, along with a number of other donations, ensured that we could be a little bit more unique than a lot of other indoor soccer facilities, where we did go wider so that we could have an unboarded field and play that style of soccer.